The Avengers game is completely wasted potential. The game should have been what Spider-Man was, or the new Guardians of the Galaxy game was, or like type a game, not a generic live service game. The base main story is actually surprisingly good. The story's about 12 to 13 hours. It's about A-Day, aka Avengers Day. It goes badly, and the Avengers are to blame. A couple of years pass, and everyone thinks people with powers are dangerous, and people are now afraid of them, and they call them Inhumans. Um, the story is kind of like X-Men, except for it doesn't really dive into or lean into the X-Men type of story, and instead focuses on a standard superhero story, which is wasted potential because it could have been interesting. This the world itself or the city that we saw when you were playing as Miss Marvel in the early part of the game or whatever. Um, it was very atmospheric, I guess, and I wish more of the game was like that. And also, the standard story, which is a problem because the standard story isn't actually that bad, but it could have been better with the X-Men elements. The story is about Miss Marvel, aka Kamala Khan, finding the truth about A-Day and wanting to bring back the Avengers to stop AIM and show the world the Avengers are the good guys and AIM are the bad guys. The set pieces are great and the characters are fine. Uh, the villains are very bland though. They chose AIM, which had a ton of potential. They never actually reached that potential in the game though. All the secondary villains are generic and suck. Besides MODOK, the problem with MODOK is he should have had a bigger part instead of being overshadowed by the secondary villains. Also, the secondary villains they chose, they're all pretty bad. Like, they could have chose some really cool characters, but they didn't. Abomination was pretty cool, but the other ones weren't that great. The pacing is good though, so I give points for that. Now onto the DLC stories. Hawkeye and Kate Bishop DLCs are good, but way too short. They're about 2 hours long. And the Black Panther DLC is good, and the length is fine. If all the main content, all the DLC content was, the main content for the DLCs were 4 to 5 hours long, like the Black Panther DLC, then I would say it would be great. The problem with bite-sized DLCs is that you end up waiting the whole year for a bite-sized DLC. Or, no, for one big DLC, and then you have little bite-sized ones to that big DLC, which is good, but the thing is the big DLC is not big enough to garner you having to download for, the entire year. And there's not that many bite-sized DLCs to, fill in the gap, if that makes sense. The problem with bite-sized DLCs, again, is the value of the live service dies down. If the DLC stories had 4 to 5 hours main campaign, a new character, bunch of side content, like the Black Panther DLC, then the live service value would be great. Like Destiny, they add a ton of content throughout the year that's definitely over 10 hours and stuff, and they have a lot of those contents throughout the year instead of just one decently long content at the end of the year, like with the Avengers game. But sadly, the value of the live service at the moment of the Avengers game kinda sucks. Now on to the gameplay. The gear/loot is garbage. It doesn't feel like you're actually improving, and the gear you get is always lackluster. Occasionally it's good, but I just don't like the loot system that much. The skill tree is actually really good, and it's great, it's fun, it gives you a lot of grind to, it gives you a lot of incentive to grind, and makes the combat more fun. But the problem is the gameplay is super repetitive because you go room to room, just beating up bad guys and stuff like that every single level. The problem is everyone is beefy, they soak up someone's damage, and they soak up a bunch of damage and never react to your attacks. It makes you feel like you are attacking nothing and just hitting air. The gameplay objectives are capture capture the zones, protect these enemies, or no, not enemies, protect these friendlies, and so on. They are all repetitive, and the combat can't hold it for those, like, gameplay objectives. Also, most of the levels of the game, they're just all very similar layouts, and they look similar and are repetitive. Even the ones that don't look similar, which are great, they just feel repetitive because, they're just a backdrop. They don't have anything there that makes it different from the other levels. Like Spider-Man, the indoor one has you doing stealth or something, or the one at, like, I don't know, just as an example, in the Spider-Man games, they each have their own. Every level has a bit different. They feel different. Unlike the Avengers game, it just feels like a color change. Also, all the characters do feel different, so that is a plus sign. And now onto the multiplayer part of things. The multiplayer isn't great. All the stuff about the gameplay translate here, and now onto glitches and bugs. I had 2 crashes, and that's it. For me, the game is super smooth and the frames are fine. But I do have friends who said the game ran, like, pretty bad. Like, they had a good amount of glitches, frame drops, and stuff like that. Like, I saw my friend, he showed me this, like, video he recorded of the Avengers game, and he, like, floated through the floor. And that's not good at all. And now onto value. You'll get a bunch of hours out of the game, but I don't like the gameplay, so I am not compelled to do all the content, or all the content that makes the value pretty good, I guess, But, if you do like the gameplay, then obviously you'll want to do the content, like the extra content and stuff. So yeah. Now on to monetization. The monetization is actually not that bad. It's only for skins, battle pass, emblems, emotes, finishers. I think finishers should be free, but the monetization, like I said, isn't really that bad. Because everything else is just doesn't really affect their gameplay. Finishers don't either. They're just cool to look at, but those should be free. I would buy the game for $10 to $15. Maybe I would just barely $10 to $15. And that's about it. And subscribe if you like the content. Give me a like on the video. And yep, that's about it. And bye.